Only a couple months now. I think I recognize her.
Welcome to The Truth in His Art Beyond, and we're in Philadelphia. I am your host, Rob Lee, and today it is my pleasure to be in conversation with my next guest, who is a registered dental assistant and the owner of Sweet Peach Studios, which offers an array of services such as temporary or semi-permanent tooth jewelry, removable caps and grills, and safe whitening services. Please welcome Elle Stankiewicz. Welcome to the podcast.
Happy to be here.
Thank you. One of my ex-friends is Polish, and I was like, what is your real name?
Yeah.
So it's like, what is this?
My studio's over by Port Richmond, too, which is the Polish part of town. So, yeah.
I feel like there's
Happy to be here, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to have you here. This is, in a sense, a long time coming for me because I did an interview with Sam, and that was when I first became aware of your work. And I was like, all right, me and Sam, similar size, bearded, large, bald.
He's the best.
He's a talented musician.
Yeah.
I do a podcast.
He was one of the first people in my studio that I opened in September that came in, and I loved his opal piece, and it really came together well. And he's cool with the music and everything, so shout out to Sam.
That was the reference point I was showing. I was talking to my partner, and I was like, yo, I'm getting what he got.
Yep.
And she was like, he looks like a white version of you. And I was like, So, again, thank you for being on the pod, and let's talk about the vital stats, right?
Yeah.
Tell us about your work, your background, and then we'll, go into a few other questions, but I'd like to at least start off there.
Yeah, sure thing. So, you already covered that I had a career in dental, but I grew up in Philly, and I'm out in the suburbs right now, but I've traveled, and I just love Philly as my home base. I'll always come home. But growing up here, always kind of being a creative, and around 18 getting into the dental field, that kind of took up my career over the last 10 years. And honestly, I never saw myself leaving. I loved the medical field, but at the same time, I think it was mainly because I didn't really have a vision of what else is there? What else could I do? And after the pandemic, everybody was burnt. And especially, I worked at Penn for a while, and after being burnt out, and it really all started because I wanted a tooth gem, and I'll get into that. But one thing led to another, and I'm blessed to be where I am today. So, it was a quick decision. Probably about a month, I said, all right, I'm out, wrote up my letter of resignation.
Yeah, but I definitely want to learn a little bit more about that. So if you will, tell us about, because I'm very interested in that first creative experience, some of those early creative experiences, because I think we find something there.
Yeah.
Like, some people will talk about like, man, I remember going to this art show, or I remember going to a carnival for sake of argument, and I saw this costume, and now I make costumes, or what have you. So what was sort of that maybe first creative experience that maybe connects to what you're doing today, whether it be through sensibilities or actual the process?
I would say that my first dots that I can remember that were connected was I was close with my uncle growing up, and he was always into drawing. I got into drawing at an early age, and my dad was always supportive about getting me into different stuff. Like, I remember he bought me a rock tumbler. We would do sand art, anything you can imagine. So from a kid, I was really into drawing, which went through school. I was always more of a visual artist, to whereas I know some people are writers and so forth, but in high school, I was mainly taking art classes, got really into oils and paints, and was doing really well, was in art shows, went to Moore College. And overall, it kind of fell out once I started working full-time within the medical career. I would always find myself, every once in a while, doing a pet portrait for something and doing something for somebody, but never really, finding that energy to stay with it for my own enjoyment. Yeah. So falling out of that and falling into it now just feels so good. It feels like I'm really in my roots again, So
speaking of those roots, and thank you for sharing that. Speaking of those roots, how was it jewelry? Let's talk about that, because it's you're combining two things, sort of the creative sensibilities and that desire. And I guess I'll throw in anecdotally, I suppose, For me, I got burnt out at about 24.
Yes.
I was like, what am I doing? What is life? This can't be life, bro. Yeah. And I remember distinctly at like a birthday dinner, just like, man, maybe I was a little faded. Man, y'all my mastermind team here. And I was like, that's a good name for a podcast. And that's literally how I started in podcasting.
Love
like
it.
at the rip. But at the time, I was trying to take this sort of marketing career, this marketing analyst career. That's what I was doing, and making a lot of money, doing very well, and feeling satisfied in that regard. But I don't know how much of it was me. And I think being able to find our voices, being able to dive into what interests us is really important. So that's, I think, the trigger or the button that was pressed. And I was like trying my hardest to bring in some of these, smaller, weird, creative things into the job and see if they would mesh.
Yeah.
It wasn't meant to be in that sort of way, in that configuration. So I started living this sort of dual lifestyle of, hey, creative in the evening, work during the day, and
it's only so long you can keep up with it.
Right. And I think a lot of artists can relate to this, right? I felt like the day job was the funder for the creative lifestyle.
Yeah.
The day job was the grant.
And once I let that go, I'll tell you the abundance, wealth-wise, financially, people, relationships just I had more room to fit all these things in my life, So, sorry, what was the question?
No, yeah.
So can we edit that out?
No. We keep it authentic.
Okay.
So why jewelry ultimately?
Jewelry. So it's funny, being in the dental field, you kind of, and I know people feel this way about me, but you're kind of like, what are you doing to teeth? You're not, what are you doing out there? So I saw it a few years ago, and I was just kind of like, what the hell is that tooth gem thing? December 21, I wanted a tooth gem, and that's literally how it started. So I have a friend who's a tattoo artist. She's like, why don't you do them here? I have another friend who's a photographer. She put the word out for me. And my first 2 days were jam-packed. I mean, when I tell you people jumped on that so fast, I left my job 30 days later.
Wow.
I knew that I needed something else. And I had my father pass away, too, around that time. And I was just, like, ready. I was like, I feel like I just need to take a leap of faith. But how can you leave that biweekly paycheck for 10 years behind without being a little scared?
Yeah.
But sometimes it's worth taking that leap. And then as far as gold teeth coming into the mix and jewelry regarding that was just by proxy and demand. Of course, I was always looking into expanding. But when as soon as I hit the ground, people were like, where's the grillz? Where's the gold teeth? And I said, I don't know how to make all that. I had one client come through one day and she's like, oh, just send out. So I have a wonderful jeweler in Brooklyn who works with me right now. And I'm actually working with another jeweler in Philly to learn how to make my own. Yeah. One thing led to another again, starting the whitening. So I love it because I get to be creative. And also working with my clients and their preferences, we come up with really unique things every single time. And I just love it. I really don't even have the vision until it's done. A lot of the times for freestyles and stuff too, I'll just be going. I'll pick out gems that may be their favorite color. And then they say, go for it. And I'm pleased with that, So I have a lot of fun doing it. And I think the inspiration comes from having fun, comes from the demands and people you meet along the way. But I absolutely love doing this. I used to do like the wire wrapping and stuff like that. So when it was a smaller scale, you get the couple things from Michael's. But I've always been a jewelry wearer, jewelry buyer. And I love this little niche because I have a friend who does gems north of the city like Warminster, but there are a few people in Philly who do them with lashes and cosmetic tattoo, but I think that I have a leg up, or I know I have a leg up having the dental background, and Absolutely. I have a lot of people come through for that reason. So it's nice also being able to sit down with somebody and explain to them the semantics about getting a gem and why this and why that and how my products work, and being able to really talk to them about these things with a sure footing knowing makes me feel good and makes my clients feel comforted too, Yeah.
I think Vitali?
What's that?
Is that Vitali?
Lapis.
Okay.
Lazuli. I was going to be talking a lot today, so I needed this little,
Sure. I look at some of the pictures that I have. Just when I go, I have this one ridiculous, like really heavy chain from Vitali, and it connects like right there.
This?
Yeah.
H&M.
Okay. So I remember going into one of my favorite restaurants in Baltimore, and the owner pops over because she loves what I'm doing. Shout out to Alma Cocina, and Irena comes over there, and she's like, "What is this chain? Why is it so heavy?" I was like, "Look, man, that's what I throw on, man. This is this finery, you know."
Yep.
And I started looking at it. My partner, she was like, "All right, Thanos," because I had like 5 rings on one hand. She's like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
She's like, "This is what you're turning into."
If I didn't wear gloves all day, I'd be decked. You know, I wear what I can.
And so
Love
I think I was saying like every time I hit 100 episodes, it's a new ring. She's like, "Oh my god,
Get it?
She's
Yeah.
like, "You're coming up on another
Milestones. Yep. And I'm coming up on another ring too. You know it.
So going back and making that decision, that leap of faith, right?
Mm-hmm.
What were some of the like those sort of concrete like factors you were considering? Like what sort of considerations that were there as far as you have security at a job or what have you, and healthcare and things of that nature. And then because I think that's a lot of things that keep people in that sort of dual lifestyle.
Was.
And so talk about that, some of those considerations and the feelings leading up to like, no, this is on borrowed time. This dual lifestyle is on borrowed time.
I'm fortunate enough, and I know not everybody's in this position. My healthcare, of course, and I also had health issues while I was at Penn. Healthcare was a big thing for me. Being fortunate enough to be married, I hopped on my husband. So that was an easy jump for me. The rest of it comes, that aside, I want to say confidence, but with a lot of self-doubt at the same time. I was scared, but I was sure, in myself, in my future, and also like seeing the money the first 2 days that I did that first month. I mean, it was like 3 times my check at Penn. So I was like, this could be something. Yeah. And I was in my own studio 9 months later, but each day that I worked, had clients, met people. People were coming to my living room for 6 months. I mean, this is what made me confident. My clients leaving with a smile. And I'm a very I'm slow and steady wins the race. I'm happy to take all the baby steps to see the bigger picture later on. And that's kind of where I'm at. It's amazing thinking about how I started last January, 2022. So each accomplishment keeps me going, and big or small. And I've worked my way up to working with Atmos, which is like a streetwear company in Philly. I've done brand deals with Jordan, the sneaker.
Nice.
So once these things start rolling in and you make room for them and you believe in your blessings, they come, And I know that's way easier said than done. I've had slow weeks and business credit debt, and you just take the leap, you take the punch, and I just believe it'll come back. Of course, it's not always easy. Over the winter, it's been slow, but I've had saving graces such as the gold teeth and whitening. I think people will start rolling in for gems in the summer, but you got to roll through the punches with those things. And I'm kind of the person, once I get something done, I am like, okay, what's next? When my husband's like, why don't you just lay down and pat yourself on the back? And I'm like, all right, well, it's done. What's next?
I get the same thing where it's like, yo, you got a coffee. What are you doing? Like, yo, you got this and this going on, and these are things that you shot for, or you're still doing this and able to, one, have people recognize you and speak to you. Currently, you're in multiple markets.
Yeah.
And I think, sometimes there is this thing that there are highs and lows in any pursuit, right? And we almost diminish the highs to focus on the lows because you have this, at least I know I do, and I know a lot of folks do, this sort of constant desire to, I've never done enough. I haven't done enough. And I think
fear-based thinking gets you into trouble.
And I think social media has a piece of it, where you look at what someone else is doing, you're like, why are they so great? Why can't I get that or what have you?
I'm the opposite at this point.
Oh, really? Say more about that.
I definitely felt that way when I first started, but now I'm like, people are the ones that come to me in the way that I used to go to people asking questions and just saying, I love your artwork. I get people from all over the world asking me, do I teach? And da-da-da. These are things that I'm considering offering over the summer. Yeah. More of a refresher. Again, being a dental background, I'm afraid to go hard with people who may not have that because I can't guarantee they're going to go buy the safest products when they leave. But I have ideas for that. And so like I said, the abundance rolled in, baby. And now I feel like I'm at a spot where I can make requests and I can be an inspiration. And don't get me wrong, I'm inspired every single day by myself, by other people. And I think that's where the relationship with other creatives in my field especially is important. I'm not somebody who feels I'm competitive for the right reasons, but even the person in Warminster, we're good friends. I have a few gem friends in New York, and we're always up and talking to each other, hyping each other's work up. If we have questions, like I had this new gold piece over the summer that was new from my dealer for them, and it didn't fit right. It kept falling off. I kept buying new ones, and I said, guys, like, what the heck is with this gem? And they're like, it's too big. It's not laying flat for me either. So being able to have that, not feel ashamed that your work isn't perfect all the time and not be looked down on. So community, but now I feel in a place where, I can offer help to people as well. And dare I say, I feel like I run the Philly game when it comes to tooth gems and gold teeth. Is there anybody else? Let me know.
Never lost. Who are they? I don't know who they are.
Yeah.
That's
the Gem John.
That's great. And, I have those vibes every night. Because I'm a cusp, right?
Yeah.
I'm a Capricorn Aquarius cusp.
Oh, we can talk about that all day, honey.
And whenever it comes to, like, some of the choices and the strategy and the vision, all Aquarius, right?
Yeah.
But when it comes to the petty clapback, it's all Capricorn.
Yep.
It's just like, what? You don't know who I am.
Yep.
Or even this thing I've been on sometimes, like, I'll use like other comparative sort of creatives and actors and different artists and such. And I was like, how actors, don't audition anymore? I don't need to audition for this.
That's how that's where I'm at a little bit now. And with that Aquarius too, I have that in my chart as far as purpose, and it makes you great with working with people. It makes you wonderful with working with people. And me being a Taurus, that's that step-by-step slow pace, So it really takes that and that balance between both. You need that side to protect yourself. You need that side to keep going and keep that confidence. Ego is good. We're here. We're humans. We're having a human experience, which comes with ego. It's about balance, not elimination. You know how people say, like, oh, kill the ego. No, you're here. We're living a life, and it's about keeping it in balance, in check.
I want to, and I'm putting this out there. This is probably the first time this has ever been said in public, right? I want to have a book of me being a fake philosopher.
That would be great.
Have drinks with your ego.
Yeah.
I think that there's something there because you learn something. There's some honesty there.
Yeah.
I just made that completely up in my head.
I absolutely love it. I think people forget sometimes, and I could come back for an entire spiritual podcast, but I think people forget sometimes that we're a soul having a human experience. And with that human experience comes all the range of emotion. And with relationships, in yourself, all of that like mercurial communication and motions, that just comes with being a human. So I think it's beautiful when it really comes together like that,
Yeah.
I want to see that book. You got to send me a copy.
I'll make it a thing. I mean, my thing always turns into trying to fully see where this vision goes. And I think whatever the vision is, if I'm looking at it at its sort of base root, I'm doing interviews with people, right?
Yeah.
But then it's like there's an anthropological sort of standpoint to it. There's a journalism component to it. There's a storytelling component to it. It's all of these different things. There's an archival component to it. It's all of this different stuff. But really, for me to simplify it, it's like this is what I'm doing. And my sensibilities are baked into it from that standpoint. And being a podcaster as long as I have, kind of having is this ability to know how to structure a conversation. Versus, hey, tell me about your work.
You need that.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And
I think wanting to see what is how far one can go with it. So, some folks will say, oh, you're just a podcaster, so this is all you can do. Or you're just a gold tooth maker. That's all you can do. And it's like, not going to do much more than that.
Yeah. I'm actually already planning a little bit.
Right.
I know that gems are a trend. I don't feel like gold teeth will ever not be a trend because I feel like it's a lot more sincere. But gems used to be popular early 2000s, and now they're making a comeback. And I can't do this for the rest of my life, but I know now that I can take ideas and create them. And just like you said, all of the little parts and compartments that come with being an artist and staying inspired is really important. And it really all comes together, especially when you want to welcome new ideas into your life. That's something I'm already thinking about, which is kind of a route where in Philly I'm learning these gold teeth and how to make them myself because I would like to maybe stay in that department. And I'm looking for my niche. I found this jeweler in Brooklyn who did like Erykah Badu's grill, and it was so different. It had like chains coming out, and it may have even been more of like a photography shoot thing, but something like that to where it's like, oh, I haven't seen that before. That's kind of what's in my core now. Which way am I heading now? And planning for the future, still staying present.
I love that. So obviously, you know, having the dental background, having this eye for aesthetics, that's what I'm gathering. It's like, so let's talk about the learning curve for being an entrepreneur, because that's a whole different thing. Like, I'm seeing that and having the background in that area of like, I went to school for that, right? Yeah. And then now just having to do it in this sort of art entrepreneur space. I'm like, don't cross the beams. I don't want to cross the two of them, but you know, there's a necessity for it. Oftentimes, I'm sure you've heard it, you know, that artists, oh, they never keep time. They never keep their books. They never keep any of these things in order. And it's like, until they do. Yeah. So talk about some of the things you've had to kind of learn and some of the lessons you maybe unlearned and, you know, of what people will tell you about business. You're always supposed to lose money, or you're always supposed to do this and so on. And, you know, what are some of the things that you've learned over the last year plus? So,
you know, I think that it's maybe even learning. I'm continuously trying to like shape this up, but the main thing that's kept me going is consistency and being human, especially before my studio, rescheduling and certain things like that. Life comes up, health things come up. That always stressed me out the most. But my end game is just consistency. Consistency with my clients, consistency with my inventory, with my vision, just making sure that everything is kind of stacking on top of each other. I definitely feel, again, like my confidence has really kind of brought me somewhere, but it's really shaping always. As far as money stuff goes, again, I took that, and I'm not good with that stuff at all. My husband kind of follows suit with that stuff, but I was lucky enough to really not be in that loss last year, and we'll see where it goes this year, and I'm sure that if need be, I'll handle it. But creating a cushion, saving money to invest back into yourself, not just keeping the business going. But honestly, like, if I had to put it in one word, it's consistency and showing up for yourself. I think it's really important to be the way that you're friends to other people is how you have to show up for yourself. If you made a date with your friend, you're going to show up. If you made a date to do work, to do something for yourself, show up for yourself. And I feel like showing that friendship to yourself really changed your world, you know? Because sometimes it's easy to be like, oh, I just can't, but really push yourself. And I'm still pushing myself, you know? I'm making this sound all pretty, but at the same time, it comes down to the day-to-day and just that consistency.
I agree.
Yeah, I
agree. I had an experience where I was filming background work, but filming for a TV show, and I was around a lot of like film and media people at the time, and kind of gleaning certain pieces of information. I was like, how does one succeed in this? How do they grow from being a background person to maybe being a regular background person to kind of moving up in that process? And the kind of prevailing thing I got was, you're available, being available. And I was like, this is why this wave and this trajectory has been going so well. And, it's never always perfect. Yeah. You might be a few minutes late. You might be this. You should be on time for that sort of stuff, the call times and all of that. But, you can't do everything. But at least putting yourself out there that your aspiration is to do as much as you can and do it authentically and do it do it because you want to do it.
Exactly. That was a big motto for me last year. And we were just discussing how you can't make it to everything, but I was just like a yes person last year. Any opportunity I got, no matter how big or small. I had a guest spot at a shop in Philly that I found out after didn't have the best reputation, but I still went and followed through, saw my clients, and that worked me up to the Jordan deal, the Atmos deal. And towards the end of last year, I was giving myself more time for myself, just being winter and slowing down. But just making sure you're saying yes to opportunities, even if it's not perfect or you can't bring the most energy that day or it doesn't turn out wonderful. I was just kind of leaving that gate open for myself last year. And it kind of, I'm here today now.
Yeah, you're here on this podcast.
Yeah, I love it.
So in that, on the flip of that, how do you distinguish, like, based on maybe the traits of folks, because you learn, right? Who you don't want to work with, who you don't find. It's like, I don't know if this is a fit. Like, I can say, because of maybe what I represent and how I go about my stuff and the sort of reach that it has.
Yeah.
Some of the people hit me up in the DMs. Hey, I would love to maybe partner with you. Here's this many zeros. I'm like, I don't know if that fits.
Yeah.
And I was like, we're, dabbling in authenticity. We're dabbling in like being a part of the community, not just some weirdo.
Yeah, exactly.
So there are certain things, like I definitely try to vet who I'm going to work with. Everything can't be 100, obviously, but you try to vet and see, like, is there a match here with what my values are and what my scruples are, if you will, versus whatever opportunity to collaborate, whether it be with a guest, whether it be with a potential funder, whether it be with a brand, with the coffee thing. So, what sorts of things you look for from like someone potentially to collaborate, bringing your brand that's growing and developing, into sort of that space? Because everyone wants to jump when you're popping.
Yeah, I was actually really trying to think as you were asking me that question. And the first thing that came to my mind was maybe a few clients that I don't want to work with again. But there was one actual, there was a company who sells gems. And as far as I'm aware, it's a small company in New Mexico or Arizona down there. And I would buy my gems from them. They were pretty affordable. But the consistency from them was like absolutely obscene. Like they would just not send things and not answer and not understand that on Instagram you can see when someone's read your message. And basically they asked me eventually to be an ambassador for them because I purchased a lot over the last year and since have switched. And I said no. I was like, I'm not going to because a lot of people in the gem community also have had issues with them. So that was somebody that I really couldn't bring on my brand because that's not my values, It's, at least communication is a big, big thing. As far as maybe having health issues and not be able to get to the post office, because that was a scenario, as far as I'm aware. It really comes down to just communication. Just talk to me, let me know. And I just didn't feel like that was something that was good for my brand, And then I know my limits with clients as well. Don't really take much disrespect because I don't have to. And I love working for myself. I love owning a business. And I know my limits. I'm good with boundaries, to say the least.
It's one of those things, like, just keep it cute.
Yeah, you know it.
Because I find it really, like, funny, like, in doing it. And I like all of that because I go about it the same way, where there was one interview that I did and the person really wanted to, be a part of it. And I had some funding attached. And the funder was like, yeah, we'd love for you to interview this person. And then this person was really weird and kind of anti-Black about some things. And I was like,
side eye.
So they later apologized, right? Just publicly to like a bunch of different people. But then in the DMs, they had a weird take about me, and as a personal take about me. They've never met me. Most people haven't met me. Yeah. They've been on the pod, but they haven't like met me in person.
Red flag, red flag.
So I'm like, oh, I'm disingenuous. And then I see all of these sort of opportunities. It's like that this person is getting because they fit a certain cohort. And I'm like, oh, y'all not vetting. Yeah. You're not vetting these people. It's like these two things together, it's like maybe I'm disingenuous because I'm a Black dude or whatever. But I was like, that coupled with that weird sort of half apology for saying some anti-Black nonsense.
Yeah, no. Wipe your hands clean of that.
And it's just like, all right, cool, I'm going to keep it rolling.
Yeah.
Don't have time for it, but also you do inventory it. And I'll say this, because I think this connects to what we're talking about at this point. I remember, so like, I listen to a lot of audiobooks, and I like Austin Kleon stuff, right? And one of the things he's talking about was what he does with reviews. He says the bad reviews immediately in the trash, right? Good reviews, use it if he needs a little bit of a dopamine hit, but don't dwell on it. Yeah. So what do you do in that regard when you hear good review, good feedback, just people like, man, I'm sharing this is great. And what do you do with sort of not so good reviews?
It's interesting. Oh my God, I feel like I sound so cocky, but I've really had great.
No losses.
No, I have.
Philly John.
Yeah, for real. But I have been blessed to have really happy experiences. I would say the only frustration I've had from people was when I was dealing with health issues and I rescheduled a few times. And absolutely understand it's somebody's time, and I had no issue. My feelings were not hurt, and I definitely offered them like free work if they ever wanted to come back and whatever. But getting into less detailed parts of it, Fuel, if that doesn't sound cliche, taking it constructive criticism. My first couple whitening clients I did recently were all for deals, and I said, tell me everything afterwards. Tell me constructive criticism. They told me what was comfortable, what wasn't. Now that's easy. I'm asking for it. The things that you don't ask for, you can't make everybody happy. And at the same time, you have to focus on yourself. And I like that as far as the good comments, just, taking it for a second and keeping your eye on the prize. And not letting your head get too big. But I have been blessed to have good experiences. I really, really put my heart and my soul into this. Yeah. And I would say as I grow and get more attention, I'm sure that there'll be more experiences. But I'm somebody that, maybe it'll sting for a second because I'll beat myself up. Like, okay, I could have did that better rather than being mad at the person who's saying it. But again, I'm just going to tweak it and move forward with it and try not to let it happen again. I feel like there was some frustration with grillz one time when time for being mailed back to me. And it ended up working out, but it was something that I just had to settle with the client and say, hey, I understand. And now I'm more vocal about timelines and when we were expecting things back, and I'm more communicative with them when it's back. And so, without getting too carried away, you take it for what it is, good and bad. And I really think that it's just kind of there to help you grow. I mean, you got to roll with the punches, no matter what business you're in. You got to roll with the punches.
You got to roll with the punches, and you'll love this because we're in Philly. You got to keep punching.
You got to keep punching too.
Oh my God! I literally did an interview with the one I was telling you about beforehand. We had to finish in the dance space.
Yeah.
And we were talking about. I was like, man, when I'm coming up here setting up the mics, I was like, when I come up here, man, I'm listening to the Rocky soundtrack. She's like, hell yeah, I feel that.
Please, oh my God, I'll meet you on the steps.
And I was like, but it's Rocky 4 though. She was like, say more. I was like, look, it came out the year I was born, right? I'm going on this whole rant about it. I always defend that movie. And yeah, I've had that in a few instances when you're working with multiple people, you're working with a schedule, and I've had to create different rules within Calendly and all of that stuff, just so that I'm not back to back to back. Because at a point, I like the most interviews I did in a day was like 6.
Yeah. And that's important, knowing your limits.
Yeah.
And I was able to carry that over from working in a hospital. I'm really good at talking to people chairside. I'm really good at explaining things because I was consenting people for surgery and post-ops and all these things before. So I'm good with that. And I think it's having that clear message to the people that you're working with, know.
And I remember one thing that was super odd. Like, no one has any idea what's going on. They just know, what they feel like, and they feel that at times, and not everyone obviously, but there's this sort of, I need to advocate for myself. I don't feel like I'm getting a fair break. It's like, all right, it's not anything goofy in here. I was like, you know how many people reschedule on me? Or how many people don't show up for interviews?
I'll tell you. Yeah, I know that.
And, if I'm doing prep, right, if I'm researching.
And traveling.
Yeah, there's time that's been put in. Luckily, no one has not shown up for these Philly interviews. Everyone has shown up, so shout out to Philly. But there are some folks who, I'm double booked, bro. I was like, yeah. You've made this date, though.
Yeah, I'm really, really careful with that. I know my limits. That's actually what I was leading with last time, especially working by myself. I have a good friend who wants to help me this year once I'm in a place to be able to, pay her a little bit more. But overall, just knowing that it's just me, my building's private, I work on the hour, and for things, for whitening, I'm realizing I need to extend my time a little bit. But it's just knowing your limits again, and I've overbooked myself before to the point of exhaustion, and kind of wrapping back to what we said in the beginning, having that slow period over winter was hard, thinking about like having that scarcity mindset, but it was also like a reset that you needed. So sometimes when it's slower, if you won't take that time for yourself and put that time aside for yourself, it's just going to happen.
Yeah. I know that in this sort of batch, because, people, damn, bro, you're so booked up. You have so many interviews. It's like, that's just what it is. And I now, in the calendar, I'll block off like a month and a half that I'm not taking any interviews.
Good for you.
Because it turns into a thing where you do too many. Then I'll share this with you. I had a moment of the yips. I don't know if you know the baseball reference of like a second baseman can't throw to second base.
Okay, got you.
I've had that, so I couldn't do an introduction.
Yeah.
I just couldn't talk through it.
Sometimes by the end of the day, I feel you, especially by the end of the day, I'm like, wait, did I, what?
And apparently it's like a sports psychology thing when it comes to the whole yips. And you just can't do something that you've done, like almost like breathing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, I need to really analyze this and look through this. But I started thinking about it. Last year I put out 300 episodes.
Wow, good for you.
Yeah.
Love it.
And then people say, man, that's a little bit too many. Why'd you do so many? I was like, because I enjoy it.
There's 365 days in a year.
Yeah, every day, baby.
Yeah.
And, I'm going to do less this year because I'm kind of like riding this myself. This is the vision I'm riding, you know what I mean? And, people have their moments they want to chime in and give you their sort of unsolicited feedback. But really, it's like, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And knowing where it fits. So if it's like, I want to take off a month and a half, not necessarily to not do anything. It may be,
I was just going to say that. The background's still there. If you're not doing interviews, you're still doing other stuff. Yeah. What did they say? You leave your 9 to 5 to work 25/8, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, like what I find when I'm doing the travel thing, right? Like I was in New Orleans. I
love it there.
Yes. We're recording this in February to date it for everyone. Last day of February. But,
Happy Mardi Gras, right?
Yeah. And I was down in the beginning of Mardi Gras season, which is around my birthday, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm down there, I get these interviews and all of that. And almost this sort of guilt because of the dual lifestyle thing. And I was like, oh, I need to hurry up and get back to the day job because da-da-da. But it's like,
hard taking a break. I hear you there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But it's, again, giving yourself that space and grace.
Yeah. And I think what makes that really hard, especially for me, is the way that I have to run my business off Instagram, at least for now. Mm-hmm. I have never been more drained in my life. DMs give me so much anxiety, feeling like I have like, it sounds silly, but I'll get through my DMs, I'll answer everybody, and then they respond, and then my count is another 20 plus that I have to keep going. So I've been fortunate to be able to switch to online booking and emailing, but it doesn't always work. And I think that exhaustion just from social media alone has really drained me. I really don't and never really, especially recently, just don't even use my personal one. And I literally took a vacation recently to the Catskills, made sure I did not have service. Yeah. And I was chilling all weekend, like just no phone, not thinking about who I have to answer. It comes a lot, and that's the stuff you do when you're not in the office, You're always thinking, like, what do I have to do? What do I have to order? Who do I have to answer? That type of stuff. It's exhausting.
Generally, I would have my laptop with me. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm just going to go off the phone because I didn't memorize the questions. I want to have some structure here, but... I agree with that. When I came up here, I was like, okay, I don't have my watch because pretty much anyone can ping me, text me whenever they need. And I was like, I'm going to have this phone off as much as possible. Mm-hmm. So it's currently on airplane mode because I don't really want any of sort of the bother. You have to give yourself almost this sort of blackout period and almost entrusting with it. What's the term? Sensory deprivation when you're coming to your creative.
I'm the queen of do not disturb on my phone. I really am. You need that unplugging.
So I think that's the main questions in the pod. So now I'm going to hit you with some rapid fire questions.
All right.
Don't overthink these. So here's the first one. Chunky or creamy?
Chunky.
Okay.
I like to crunch. We're talking about peanut butter.
Yeah, absolutely. We're talking about peanut butter. Same for me. It's just like, look, but sometimes it depends on the jelly.
True that, but strawberry only.
Oh, boo. Actually, I like strawberry, though.
I need to put grape. I'm just over the grape. I like apple. We can get fancy with it, but...
We can, get into like a deep jelly...
the crunchy.
Deep jelly conversation.
Yeah. For another day.
What is your favorite color?
Purple and green.
You did the artist thing right there. I like it. You're like, yeah, so here's what you didn't ask for, a second one.
Yeah. Well, I can't make up my mind. Every couple months it's changing, I'll tell you.
And that's close to Mardi Gras, too, if you throw in that gold.
True that, yep.
Let's see. Some writers only use certain pens. Some paper cut artists only prefer certain blades. What is something related to your creative work that you're specific about? That you're like, I only use this.
My products. I use dental grade bonding from dentists that I've worked with before, and I'm a get what you pay for gal. So it's expensive, but my products are what I need to create efficient work and a work that will have a good retainment and retention.
That's me with these devices as well. Yep. Cut the check, you cowards. No.
Yep. Yeah, for real. Sponsor me.
What is your current phone background?
Phone? Oh, background. Oh, James Webb Telescope space shots. I'm a nerd for astronomy. So front and back, I got them shots from some of the first pictures it took.
Okay. This is the last one I got for you. If someone is visiting Philadelphia for 36 hours, so that's a quick turnaround, where are 3 places they must visit?
Let's see.
Including your place, obviously.
Obviously, yeah. Sweet Beach Studios. If it's the summer, I like Spruce Street Pier. If you're a foodie, I like Zahav. And anywhere in West Philly, like Clark Park always has these really cool things going on. West Philly's got a lot of culture, a lot of good food, and a lot of happenings, you know. You can find something any day of the week, for real.
That's great.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the conclusion, actually, of the pod and in the interview. So I want to thank you for coming on to this podcast. It's a bit of a treat.
Yeah.
And I want to invite and encourage you to share with the listeners where they can follow you, check out your work, all of that stuff, social media, website, TBA, all of that good stuff.
Yeah.
The floor is yours.
Yeah, so you can reach me at Sweet Peach Gems on Instagram, and I have my booking link on there. It comes with a lot. It's a lot of about me. And I also have, which I would like to pay attention to, a couple links on there, just Philly places that we can all support, mutual aid, community. CBTEL Philly is a great one for supporting Black trans youth. I have Indigenous support, animal support, I mean, whatever you name it on there, and just kind of get involved in your community. I have that all touched on there. But in Philly, I would actually like to take a minute to talk about this. But in Philly, it's really important to any of your communities, but there's like free food fridges. I used to volunteer with Bunny Hop. They give food to food insecure families. Wherever you can, just get involved, you know. So that's basically where you can reach me and where I can point you to.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. My email and everything's on there too, so if you ever need to reach me that way. But I'm quick to respond.
And there you have it, folks. I want to again thank Elle Stankiewicz for coming on to the podcast. And I'm Rob Lee, saying that there's art, culture, some grills in and around your neck of the woods. You've just got to look for it.